We're back here in the studio at Cooper Creek Square. It's a beautiful morning. Cooper Creek Square is your one-stop shop, 20 shops and restaurants. We've got great food, great shopping. Definitely pop in. Speaking of which, my beverage here came this morning from Mountain Grind Coffee. It's more than just coffee, so pop in there, grab a snack, and Mountain Grind Coffee and Bistro. Hanging out with Merrit Linke, Grand County Commissioner, and real quick, we're going to talk about one of everybody's favorite topics, namely because 1 in 5 cars at least has a bumper sticker that says Save the Fraser River. It's all tied to water, and water's a big deal, not only here, but in Colorado in general. Denver, the city of Denver, water's a huge deal for every year, and they get their water from us. So what's going on with water up here? Why are we so important?
Well, I think historically, the biggest thing that's so important is that, I think it's important for people to know that 80% of the population lives on the east slope, but 80% of the water is on the west slope. Mm-hmm. So obviously there's a disconnect right there. So that's what led, and the visionaries truly they were visionaries 100 years ago. They figured out a way to get some of the water from the headwaters of the Colorado to the east slope for irrigation of croplands and for cities and people to use too, for municipal.
You gotta water that lawn somehow, you know.
Water the lawn and even just the industrial type of uses that are going, and all the agricultural uses too, all the farmlands that increase incredible amounts of produce and crops for cattle and so forth.
Yeah, the farther east you go, it's a lot of ranch.
There's lots of ranch land out there, and that was one of the original uses for getting a lot of the water out of Grand County, was to get those farms irrigated and into better production.
So why is this a hot topic? What's happening or what's going on with the water? Obviously, there's more and more need for water, and there's the same amount of water coming every year as an option. So
Yeah, obviously it's a disconnect, because people in the Upper Fraser Valley see the Fraser's flow is very low, and we see some detrimental effects that seem to be affecting some of the life. The aquatic life.
Ecosystems are very fragile.
And the fish and so forth. And we see that all the way down the main state.
So are you a fisher?
I love to fish, and I can cut a willow switch and go out in the beaver pond and just
have a great day. Yeah.
So I love to fish, but that's kind of a different story.
But it's close to home for you, obviously.
It's close to home, yeah. So we fished a lot as kids. My grandpa would take us fishing. But yeah, I love to fish. Anyway, but that's all related to water. And obviously it's a big topic because water demand is east, but water naturally flows west.
So, how much water are they taking out?
Right now, about 60% of the total flows in the Fraser are being diverted.
60%?
About 60%.
And if I understand correctly, they can go up to 80%.
That is correct. They have water rights, which Colorado water law has been in existence for 130 years or more, and it's been in existence for a long time. So they have rights to actually divert probably up to 80%. Now, the tricky part is, and I think that's what's key about some of the agreements that have been signed, the Windy Gap Firming, the Moffett Firming, the CRC, the Colorado River Cooperative
Google
Agreement.
those, because I'm not going to sum those up right now.
There's a lot to those. Those are huge documents that Grand County was one of the leaders in negotiating things for Grand County, that we are better off with those agreements. And I think it's important that, although we're not going to undo Colorado water law and say no more water going east or not one more drop, those things aren't necessarily realistic. But what we can do is offset and mitigate some of the effects of all that water going east, and get some channel restructuring or a bypass or something that's going to help to offset the impacts of a lower flow in the river and still keep that ecosystem healthy.
So who's all a part of these discussions with the city of Denver? I mean, how high where is this taking place?
There's a huge amount of people that are involved in these discussions, all the way from the river groups, the Upper Colorado River Alliance, the Trout Unlimited, and those kind of groups that all have kind of diversified in different interests, but they all have a common goal of seeing what we can do to make sure that we can offset any impacts of a less amount of water in the Fraser and in the Colorado, and really in the entire mainstem of the Colorado, all the way to California.
And when you're working, with the city of Denver, does it feel like we're all working together, or does it sometimes feel like we're working against each other, fighting over the...
And I think that process has changed. I think 20 years ago, I would say, you get those people in the room, and there was a lot of
heated discussions.
Heated discussions would be a good way to put it. But I really believe that there's a lot more cooperative agreements nowadays that are taking place, and I think a lot of the people, the key players on the Front Range, have realized that we're all part of one state, and damage to the West Slope is going to hurt Colorado as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're willing to.
That's great to hear. So
yeah,
and obviously we know I don't even know what % of our economy it would be tourism-wise, but the city of Denver, we're their playground. I mean,
that's right.
A lot of them are coming up here to use these things, and the last thing they want to do is torch the ecosystem. And
that's right.
Yeah. So
they don't want to see a dry river stream with dead fish in it. So
yeah.
I think they really do see that there's a benefit to keeping the West Slope healthy, even though there's obviously a lot fewer people. So I think there was a spirit of cooperation.
All right. Well, let's tap real quick on the future. The future of Grand County. We got a lot of fun changes. A lot of changes have been happening in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think one big thing we've talked about in other shows is we just added a year-round transportation system that goes as far as Granby. Right. So that's very exciting for long-term or year-round residents of the county. They can now kind of operate if they don't have a car or something. A lot of developments. We've got a big project going on the is it north or west side of town here, right by the Hernando's Pizza Pub. A lot of development on this end of the county, probably throughout the county. So anyway.
Yes, there is starting to be a lot more building taking place again, and I think that is good news. I do think the transportation system that you just mentioned is going to be a huge player into the future, because that's one of the things that surveys show is one of the key impediments to getting quality help for a lot of the businesses on this end of the county, because a lot of the workers live in Granby or further down the valley, and that transportation system helps them to get to work.
Do you foresee anything that connects the county more?
To serve your coffee, all those things.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Do you think there'll eventually be more transportation, like from a county standpoint, to try and connect Kremling to Hot Sulphur to Grand Lake?
There's certainly talk of it, and it probably in some point in the future, I couldn't put a number on how distant that might be, but there certainly is talk of it, and probably a need for it at some point in the future when we get to the point where we need workers to be housed in maybe a lower income type of a situation, but still be able to work for the resorts and the bigger industries on this end of the valley.
So what's the budget forecast? How are we looking? Are we going to be going the right direction, the wrong direction, or are there too many unknowns to give an accurate?
There's obviously some unknowns, but I believe we're going in the right direction. Our goal is to get a balanced budget by the year 2018 or maybe the end of 2017. To where our revenues match our expenditures.
And if I'm not correct, you're up for election this year.
That is correct. This is my third year, and I am up for election this year, so that would be my start of my second term, should I get reelected.
So it's important to keep you on so that we can keep these goals moving the same direction.
I'm glad you said that, and I'm glad you see it that way, because I do think that is important, and primarily for a lot of the reasons that we just mentioned. I think water is a big one. We've signed a lot of agreements, the CRCA, the Windy Gap firming, the Moffett firming, and we're working on a Windy Gap pipe bypass. I think that there needs to be some continuity, some institutional knowledge, some historical knowledge that can help to administer those agreements going forward and say, this is what we agreed to do. Now you got to do it. And I think there's some value in having somebody in that office that knows what's going on, what happened in the past, how did we get to where we are, and to take us to the best possible future that we can get for Grand County.
For anyone watching that's going to be voting this fall, got any free plug you want to throw out there right now?
Sure. I think that partly you've already said that I think there's some value in continuity. I'm a long-term local. I try to evaluate things objectively as possible. I try to listen to my constituents and respond to them. Obviously,
Can I call you on the phone? If I'm just
you sure can. You can call me on the phone.
You're accessible.
We're one of the few people still has a landline. You can call me. We're in the phone book. I still have
answering machine to go with it and call waiting. But do you have a website?
I do not have a website, but you can get onto the county website, and my number's listed there too. And I answer that phone too. And
learn more about Grand County.
Yeah, county has actually a great website. You can get on there and learn a lot of stuff about what's going on. We try to keep that updated and post things that we've just made decisions on. You can learn a lot about water from that website. There's some links to some of the water issues that I've just been talking about on that website.
Well, Merrit, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been great having you once again, and we'd love to have you back again, because there is endless amounts of topics we could cover with regards to Grand County, which we all love and share with many different in many different ways. So, so thanks again. Hope to have you back soon. And with that, we're going to take a quick break here. Be sure to stick around, because we're going to talk more about Grand Park coming up. We'll be back.